For 5 weeks, 18 men and women, 12 jurors, 6 alternates listened to horrific testimony in the Lori Vallow Daybell trial.
Nearly 1 week ago, a jury found the Eastern Idaho mom guilty of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and grand theft in the deaths of her 2 kids, JJ and Tylee, and her husband's late wife, Tammy Daybell. Our Shira Matsuzawa spoke with one of the jurors about what that experience was like.
Tiffany asked us not to share her last name. She was among the 18 jurors who sat just feet away from Lori Vallow every day. Tiffany didn't know she was an alternate until the very end of the trial, but she talked with us about what it was like to serve on the jury up until that point.
It's been an incredibly surreal experience for me. It was just so bizarre. It was almost like, one of those little puzzles with 1,000 pieces in it, and you're putting, little pieces together slowly.
What was the hardest part for you personally?
I think just being a mom and not being able to understand how anybody could, do that to their own children. It was so hard for me. I can't even comprehend what goes through somebody's mind to harm a child. I just can't.
I know you as a juror saw such graphic testimony and there were some, horrific photos. What was that like to be presented with all that?
One of the questions they asked us, in our questionnaire while in the selection process was, you're going to be shown autopsy photos. Is this something that you think that you could, be okay with? And I checked, yeah, sure, I think so. But it was, it wasn't. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. But I know that I needed to do it, to be able to bring justice to those kids because, they didn't have a say in it. I just felt like I had more emotion than she did, and the only time I saw her have emotion was when she saw a picture of JJ. She, kissed her lips and it just went like that. It just felt like so not sincere to me.
For you personally, how did you just prepare yourself for this?
I'm not really sure I did prepare myself, How can one prepare themselves to see what we saw?
How does that make you feel to kind of watch her and see this lack of emotion?
Inhuman? That's what I feel like. The rest of us are crying, emotions, nothing. It just almost seemed like she was inhuman.
Now that it's over, have you looked up at the media or any of this stuff to kind of fill in the holes?
I have. I felt like there was a lot of holes, mainly what happened to Alex Cox. We never knew. I didn't know what happened to him. Where is he at? Melanie Boudreau, where's she at?
And even though Tiffany didn't deliberate, she still feels like she was an important part of the process.
At first, I was extremely disappointed that my number got drawn, even though I knew that was going to be a possibility. But after hearing about the deliberations, I really feel that it's not that I didn't miss out on anything, but I just feel like they voted, or not voted, but they found her guilty of the charges that I would have.
Tiffany says jurors weren't given any notice about when that graphic testimony would happen, but the court would provide them with tissue and barf bags, so it was a sign of something to come. She also says the court provided them with contact info for free mental health resources, which she's considering using.
We're also hearing from a juror who was chosen to deliberate and to reach that verdict.
Nate Eaton with East Idaho News sat down with Saul Hernandez, who served as juror number 8 during the Lori Vallow trial here in Ada County. He says he's glad it's over.
I saw evil I think true evil for the first time in my life. If there's a face to evil, it was hers. And I've seen some bad things in my life, but I think for the first time, truly evil.
Again, Hernandez was part of the jury that handed down the unanimous decision to convict Vallow on all of the charges she was facing. Here's how he described the moment the court announced their decision.
Surreal. We made it, we did it, we arrived, and And I think, I don't know, a sense of we did it the right way. We didn't rush into this. We gave her a shot. We followed the process. We followed the rules that the judge gave us. And I don't know, you can feel good about it. I think you just feel satisfaction that you've done the best job you could.
Hernandez says he's happy justice was served. He now looks forward to spending more time with his family.
Meanwhile, Lori Vallow has been indicted for a second time in Arizona, this time on charges she conspired to kill her niece's ex-husband.
Before her charges in Idaho, Vallow was already facing a separate felony case in Arizona after a grand jury indicted her in 2021 on a charge of conspiring to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. This is complicated, which is why we have a flow chart on the screen for you. Today, the Maricopa County Prosecutor's Office in Arizona confirmed that second indictment charging Vallow in the attempted shooting of her niece's ex, Brandon Boudreaux.
Vallow can't be extradited to Arizona until she is sentenced in the Idaho case, which is expected to happen sometime in the next 3 months.